Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of Winners and Whiners Radio. I'm your host, Scott Steehn, lead handicapper at winnersandwhiners.com.
And I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel, senior handicapper over at winnersandwhiners.com.
Did you just get here? Did you
No.
just come rushing in? Okay. All right.
I was making sure I wasn't interrupting you.
Okay. All right. Very good. Hey, how was your weekend? You have a good weekend, buddy?
Overall, pretty good. I was undefeated going into yesterday. Had a pretty, you can call it a bad beat, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Overall, pretty good, though. How'd your weekend go?
It was okay. I did all right. It was a rough day for us in baseball on Saturday, but we recovered a little bit yesterday. All in all, not too bad. Can you believe we got football this week?
It's really a crazy thing until you remember that you have one game, and then you have about another week and a half off, and then you have other games going on.
Yeah. It's like when they bring you the appetizer really quickly, and then you're like, okay, well, this is going to be great because my food's going to be coming out right after that. And then you're just all of a sudden half an hour later, you're looking around for the waiter and like, where the hell's my?
You have the conspiracy that everyone else at the restaurant has gotten their food except for your table.
Oh, I'm definitely keeping track. I'm writing it down. No question about it. Well, guys, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. And we have some fun segments as always for you. Stick around. A little bit later, we'll be doing our Bet the Farm play. Scott, I know you had puncher's chance. You stay hot on your UFC picks. How'd that work out?
I picked out a winner. Ended up looking at the UFC main event. I gave out Hall and Strickland over 3.5 rounds, and it went to a decision. So never a sweat, never in doubt.
As soon as it got to 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third round, there was no doubt.
Well, I'm saying there were no knockdowns. Hall got injured a little bit early on into the second round, but for the most part, there was never any holding on for dear life situations.
Excellent. Well, those are nice, easy wins. The rocking chair win, if you will. But Scott, I know one of your picks ended up in the other segment. So let's talk about it. Let's get it out of the way. Maybe some people didn't have a great weekend, Scott. These are the people that thought they had a winner right up until the last minute, and then all of a sudden they didn't. It was stolen from them. Nothing you can do when something gets stolen except call the cops. All right, Scott. Well, I tried to delay it as long as possible, but I can't do that. Let's start with the Orioles Tigers first 5 over 5.5. A lot of people playing first 5 these days because of the uncertain situations with the bullpens and the extra innings with the starting the runner on second. A lot of people thinking first 5 is a little bit more safe as a way to go, but it wasn't for folks playing Orioles Tigers first 5 over 5.5. They scored 5 runs in the first inning, Scott. That's exactly where you want to be. All you need is one more run for the next 4 innings. You got to think you're good, right?
Not quite.
Not quite. They scored absolutely 0 runs in the next 4 innings. The score after 1, 3-2. Score after 5, 3-2. Call the cops, Orioles, Tigers, unders, or over fans.
And this is my my magnum opus for the weekend when it comes to call the cops. If you had the Twins and Cardinals first 5 under 5 yesterday.
Whoa. I'm sorry. Did you just say your magnum opus?
For call the cops, yes.
That is the kind of high-quality content you cannot get anywhere else in sports betting radio. It is your magnum opus. Maestro, I'm sorry for the interruption. Please continue.
All good. So I had the Twins and the Cardinals first 5 under 5 yesterday, which was a great line on BetMGM because most books had 4.5, but I found a 5. Anyway, it was 2-2 in the bottom of the 4th, and you had first and third. Adam Wainwright's at the plate. Now, he's a pitcher, but he's been around for about 40 years, so he knows how to hit a little bit. 10-pitch at-bat with the pitcher. Ground ball right to the shortstop. Throwing error with the pitcher running to first base. Cardinals scored a run. So it's 3-2. So your winning draws are dead, but you're still pushing, right? You're going into the bottom of the 5th, still 3-2. First 2 batters, out. So, you just need one more out, you're good to go. Single, guy moves to third base. 0-2 count. The only thing you're hoping for is him not to spike a pitch in the dirt, and he spiked a pitch in the dirt. Wild pitch. Scores a run, next pitch pop-up. 4-2 after 5 innings.
Okay, for a minute I thought you were going to end up pushing. I thought this whole thing was going to be a big whine about you pushing and not winning.
No, the push draw was bad in itself because he had a throwing error with. I'm
Right.
assuming Wainwright's not exactly slower than Yadier Molina, but it's probably relative ballpark.
He's a burner. Oh, he's an absolute burner.
At his age,
Yeah.
I don't think he's going down the
In
line.
this economy?
But either way, you had that, and then the 2-out rally culminated with the wild pitch on an 0-2 count. That's just brutal for the under 5 for the push. So yeah, ended up being 4-2. Picked up a loss there with the under 5.
Heartbreaker, Scott. Heartbreaker. Well, on Sunday, if you had Seattle minus 152, paid a pretty hefty price, but, they're playing Texas, so come on now. They were doing all right. They're Seattle, so they're never going to score a ton, but they're up 3-1 after 8.5 innings. All they have to do is close it out in the bottom of the ninth. All out there calling for Kendall Graveman. Oh, wait a minute. We traded our closer. Well, I'm sure that wouldn't come back to bite us over the weekend. Well, new closer coming in. Can I interest you, Scott? First 3 batters, single, homer. Smell you later, Mariners. Sorry, Kendall Graveman. Sorry, Mariners fans. If you had Seattle minus 152, say goodbye to Kendall Graveman and say goodbye to your money. Call the cops.
I feel like we were expecting Seattle to eventually fall apart because they're still hanging around in the wild card race.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that this weekend is the sign that that's officially going to happen, but losing 2 out of 3 over the weekend while the Yankees swept the the Marlins, that's going to hurt.
Not a good look. Not a good look at all. Well, Scott, this is the segment as a bettor that you'll want to be in. These are the nice, easy wins. The ones you didn't have to sweat at all. You could just take a break, kick back, and sit in the rocking chair.
So the first one was in baseball. If you had a matchup between the Brewers and the Braves, and you had the under 9.5, you had a pretty easy winner. Brewers scored 1 run in the top of the first. You ended up having 1 run in the top of the 5th. Then Atlanta scored 1 run in the bottom of the 6th, and that was it. Game ended 2-1, never in doubt.
If you had the Cleveland Indians, Chicago White Sox under 9.5, you were in pretty good shape. 1-1 heading into the bottom of the 9th. All you've got to avoid is extra innings and any kind of extra inning shenanigans. And there were no shenanigans at all to speak of. Ingles flies out to start the bottom of the 9th. Goodwin homers. That's your ball game. Drive home safe, White Sox fans. The final, 2-1. And if you had the under 9.5, never did you have to sweat it, and you had a nice, easy winner.
That's a perfect example of how baseball is really a day-to-day independent sport, because the day before, you had 23 runs between these two teams, and nobody could get an out. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people were on the over, thinking that the offenses would carry over. You'd see a lot of runs. Not quite. 2 runs.
Bullpens are tired out. That's always my favorite theory is the bullpen's gassed. Mm-hmm. All the guys down there, they're all worn out from the game before. Surely they're going to give up a bunch of runs. Yeah, not the way that works.
Did not happen. But if you had the Dodgers on the run line against the Diamondbacks, first of all, that makes a lot of sense because Arizona stinks and the Dodgers are very good. Dodgers didn't exactly take it easy on their division punching bags because they scored 5 runs in the top of the 2nd, 2 runs in the top of the 5th, 1 run in the 6th, 3 runs in the 7th. I'm sensing a bit of a pattern here. 1 in the top of the 8th, 1 in the top of the 9th. And we'll talk about what Arizona did offensively. They had 4 hits, no runs. If you're doing the math, that's 13-0. Any alternative run line, curious what the Dodgers minus 10.5 was, but that was also a rocking chair winner.
Yep, very nice. Yeah, the Dodgers 10.5 was a nice rocking chair, no question about it. So very good, Scott. Well, that brings us to probably our favorite segment where we get to call out whoever we feel has been a particularly bad sport lately. And this is the segment with I don't even know how to describe our sound effects, Scott. So we're just going to let it play. Get ready, strap on. We're going to see who wins the golden feed bag today and is donkey of the day.
That's the wrong sound effect.
Keeping you on your toes, though, right?
If that was a test, I passed.
Congratulations, everybody. We have 4 sound effects on this show, and I just blew one of them. So
fantastic. You can still play it.
We're rolling. Oh, I am absolutely going to play it. We are never going to miss an opportunity to not play that. So here we go. It's time. Take two for Donkey of the Day. There's our old buddy.
You picked the wrong animal. It happens.
Surprised we haven't named him yet.
At some point we will.
Well, Scott, as you may know, the trade deadline for the major leagues was 4 o'clock Eastern time on Friday afternoon. A lot of wheeling and dealing, and my goodness, shortstops were kind of a hot commodity. But you know who wasn't a hot commodity, Scott? And that was Trevor Story, shortstop of the Colorado Rockies. In fact, the Rockies, they're our donkey of the day because they didn't make a deal for Trevor Story. He'll be leaving after this season. No question about it. Somebody asked him after the trade deadline had passed, do you think there's a chance you could play here next year? He said, I think the writing's on the wall. Yes, and those words on the wall say, get out. Get out. So Baez went, Turner went, Freddie Galvis, they all got traded. The Rockies, they made a splash. They made a big deal, Scott. They didn't trade John Gray. They didn't trade Daniel Bard. They traded Michael Givens, reliever, traded him to the Reds. What a haul. What a haul they got back. They got 2 pitching prospects in return. One of the pitching prospects, Scott, they had just drafted in 2020. The other one, they had already had on their roster and cut him twice. Man, what a negotiating team in Colorado. If you are not donkey of the day, I don't know who is.
In addition to Story, you could have made an argument for Blackman, for Marquez, really anybody of any value on the entire team.
Right.
Because we talked about earlier in the season, before the season, that the Cubs were going to trade the deadline, and they ended up doing so because we thought the writing was on the wall that they were going to blow it up. Colorado had the ultimate all capital letters writing on the wall because you knew this team, once they traded Arenado and handed out $50 million in the process, you knew this team wasn't going to be competitive. So
yeah,
what's
St.
the
Louis
point?
is sitting there going, Arenado, what else you got?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can go through the
million?
list here. Colorado's not good, but you look at some of the players. Like, I think McMahon would get some market, don't you think?
Yeah, Scott, is it the legal weed? What's the excuse? What are they thinking? Because
I
here in
don't
Kansas
even
City,
know, man.
we've talked about this. We have a frustrating GM because he thinks we're 2 years away. So he didn't want to trade anybody. Didn't want to trade Whit. Didn't want to trade any of the real valuable pieces because he thinks we're 2 years away. But
Soler got shipped, but yeah.
Soler got shipped, right? But he was up after this year. Can you make any kind of a case in any universe that Colorado is going to be remotely competitive within the next 3 years?
See, the argument that the front office was making was that there were no good offers for Story. And
Okay.
the argument there is that's how it's supposed to go because you're losing him for nothing in about 4 months. So
I don't know. I think he's played long enough. They'll get a sandwich pick out of him if they make him a qualifying offer. I think
I'm sure the Rockies were offered more than a sandwich pick.
I'm sure, absolutely.
So if they were looking for a top 5 prospect in a certain farm system and they were offered a top 10 prospect, there's a reason for that. They're not trying to rip you off. It's because they know Story's leaving no matter what.
Right.
This isn't a negotiation. You have to trade him.
I agree. It's and you get every year, every season, you get guys that are in situations like that. They're playing for bad teams. Their deal is up after this year. They're not going to re-sign them. And yes, you don't get great value for them at the trade deadline, but you get something. You get somebody with some major league experience. Even a sandwich pick, Scott, it's a bit of a lottery ticket. So I'd rather have the top 10 prospect. So that just made no sense at all to me.
Besides Story, is there anybody that you would have actually wanted to keep? I mean, you can make a serious case that they should have traded everybody, like Blackman, Marquez. Really, I mean, I mentioned McMahon. Anybody. Why would Colorado keep any of these players?
They are absolutely convinced, Scott, that they have a great pitching staff in place. They have a young pitching staff that's going to take them to great places. I talk to these guys every week. I do radio in Colorado. And I listened to the Rocky segment. They are deluding themselves that they are ready to compete. That they have the pitching that's going to take them over the top. I don't know
what stadium do they pitch in.
Yeah, I know Coors Field. Okay. Absolutely right. So I don't know. Good time. Stay tuned. We need more teams like that because they aren't going to be a threat, certainly in that division, anytime soon. A quick reminder, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. Scott, of course, often get asked, what is winnersandwhiners.com? And simply put, it's the number one site in the world for predictive sports analysis. They do full previews and predictions on every single game, every single day. They do write-ups, they do stats, and that's the great part about them is they have not only good handicappers, but they have very good writers. Writes in a very, very good, easy to read style, makes sense. And what I like, they do predictions. They don't just lay out the numbers and say, nope, good luck, figure it out. We'll see what happens. So you should absolutely stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com for all your handicapping needs. Scott, why? Because the best part about winnersandwhiners.com is
it's free.
Absolutely free. So get over there. Should be part of your daily handicapping regimen. If you're not checking out winnersandwhiners.com, you are leaving money on the table. Winnersandwhiners.com. Go there or be square. Well, Scott, it was a weekend, so we've got a couple days worth of news stories, and man, there is a lot going on.
We got a gambling story.
We do. We like to keep the stories with a gambling slant if we can, and we've got one that pretty much landed with both feet and did a belly flop in the middle of the gambling pool. Scott, I'll let you take this one. You're kind of the hockey guy. Why don't you tell us about Mrs. Evander Kane, Anna Kane, if you will.
So Evander Kane, talking about the husband, is a hockey player, and he's been around for a while, and he has had a bit of a gambling issue in the past. He owed various debts in Vegas, likes to gamble. I feel like everyone who follows hockey knows that. Anyway, he's in the middle of a soon-to-be divorce, and I guess it was the time of airing of grievances because his wife decided to throw him completely under the bus and accused him of gambling on Sharks games. And when you say accusing, that usually means that he's not trying extra hard to win the games. Let's put it that way. So he was accused of throwing games just to get paid. And because of her comments, the NHL is now digging into these accusations to see if there's any truth to it. Now, the question you have to ask is, A, is there anything to these allegations? Or B, is she just trying to cause problems because she clearly hates this guy and they're about to get divorced? What do you think?
Sounds like a real stormy romance. It's not good. It is a very contentious divorce. I don't really understand that the Sharks needed any help in throwing games. That would be point number one. The Sharks were plenty bad without throwing games. Point number two, Scott, can a forward do that much to throw a game? I mean, obviously, if he's got a wide open look or something, he could shoot the puck wide or something. But overall, can a forward do that much to guarantee a loss where gamblers would feel comfortable putting all kinds of money down because they've got a forward in their pocket?
I would say no, unless you want to make the argument that maybe a bunch of penalty minutes, creating a bunch of power plays the other team maybe could sway it potentially.
Right.
But as a whole, no, but you can make the same argument with baseball. I mean, Pete Rose was allegedly betting on his teams. Of course, as a manager, it's easier because you have more control over everything.
Sure.
But as a player, do you think it's easier to throw a game as a baseball player or as a hockey player? I think they're both pretty hard individually with no other help whatsoever.
Yes. If you're the one exception for each sport, in baseball, it would be the pitcher.
Yeah.
With the possibility of a catcher. And in hockey, it would be a goalie.
And, of course, the Black Sox scandal was huge because it wasn't just one player. You had pretty much the entire roster allegedly being involved.
Pretty much. There were, 8 guys. But
and basketball, you had the Boston College fiasco in the, was it 60s and 70s?
Right. You had City College, New York. That was a big deal at the end of the 50s, I believe, early 60s.
You had the movie Blue Chips.
The movie Blue Chips. So, yes, there's been a history of shady shenanigans. But, Scott, when you and I were researching and talking about doing this story, there was a point that you brought up that probably is the most important point of any of these. Share it with our listeners, would you?
About the intentions or the questionable intentions of the wife in this situation?
Well, from a practical standpoint, you see, you're such a genius. You don't even remember being a genius.
Yeah,
No, from
so
a
I just want to
practical
make sure we're on
standpoint,
the
is
same
this a
page
smart
here.
move for her? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just to make sure we're on the same page here. I think that this is one of the dumbest moves by a potential divorcee that I've seen in a long time. And the main reason why is my argument here is that Evander Kane's in the middle of a 7-year, $49 million contract. And I think we would agree whether or not that it's right, unless there's a prenup involved, usually the woman gets half. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair generalization. Sure.
So I'm assuming we would agree. I don't know the official NHL rules, but assuming that if Kane is found guilty of these accusations, I'm assuming the rest of his $49 million would be voided, correct?
I would think you've got a morals clause, gambling clause. There, sure, absolutely.
So does it make much sense? I know that you hate the guy, but you're about to pretty much make 24 million minimum doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
Why would you try to sabotage a source of income that you're about to get half of?
Now, before we get too far down the rabbit hole, I will say that
I'm
being a
just food
wife,
for thought. I'm throwing
being
it
a
out
wife
there.
and mother is not absolutely nothing.
I am throwing it out there, food for
I,
thought.
I understand. No. I just quibble a little bit as a husband and father with the wife doing absolutely nothing. So she doesn't work outside the house. She doesn't work in a traditional sense, but
I didn't mean absolutely nothing in the sense
okay.
of the fact that she's just. That was what I meant. What I meant was for the sake of the 49 million, it's not like she's playing hockey. Like that's all for Evander Kane, and
Remember,
she's just
everybody,
being handed half.
that's Scott Reichel,
You asked me the question.
Reichel at Reichel Radio.
You asked me the question. I'm just saying that I
I
find it very
well,
interesting that if you are in line to make 20 something million dollars, you decide, you know what? Let's let nobody have it.
I didn't know
Instead,
you were going to improv. I didn't know you were going to solo there.
it wasn't really improv. I just feel like it's kind of the same point. It just if she's basically potentially sabotaging herself of making 20 plus million dollars in addition
Yes.
to what she would make in general. That's not a hot take.
No, it's not a hot take. I was just quibbling with your wording, my friend. But no, it's not a smart. You've got to really hate the guy. You've got to really hate the guy. So, well, I could shut up, assuming it's true, which I don't think either one of us think it is.
I don't.
But if it were true and she had this point to make, you've got to really hate somebody to cost yourself. I don't know where he is on the contract, but
Can you make
somewhere
the point after the settlement where you get the money?
after the check clears.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. So, all right, we'll keep an eye on that investigation, see how it goes. The NHL is looking into it, and you got painted with a pretty broad brush there. I hope, for his sake, if it's not true, that they come down pretty hard on her, because that's not cool. Not cool at all. Depending, I don't care what I don't care what kind of problems you're having. There's other recourses, other things you can do to resolve them. So,
Yeah.
like get a divorce, like they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Scott, the Mets did not sign their number 10 pick, a guy that kind of dropped down the board that surprised a lot of people. He was pretty much the consensus number one guy coming into the season. Vanderbilt pitcher Kumar Rocker did not get a deal done. Mets claimed they had medical concerns about his arm, but Scott Boras said he's been he's okay. He's undergone tests and things like that. But the Rocker was selected for the league's pre-draft MRI program. I don't know a lot about that, but I know it's an opportunity for potential draft picks to undergo MRIs and show, there's no damage, so everything's cool. But he declined. He did not go through that process. In fairness, a lot of top picks don't go through the process because then all 30 teams have access to their medical records, which not necessarily a cool thing. So because he did not participate, though, the Mets don't have to make him a big offer, and they still get the number 11 pick in next year's draft. Rocker goes back into the draft for next year. Did the Mets get cold feet? Did they make the right move? Do you think they ultimately regretted that pick? Scott, what's going on here?
Truth is, I know you're expecting a take. I don't really have much because it's mostly just he said, where the Mets apparently had legitimate concerns if they trust the medical staff that Rocker has a potentially serious arm issue. Now, of course, Scott Boras, who is the agent for everybody who wants to make money in the league, said, my client's fine, because what is he supposed to say if he's trying to get his client paid? So I don't really know I don't really know the gist of it, but I will say this. The only thing I do know is that the fact that Rocker did slide that many picks is a little bit suggestive, don't you think?
Yes, I think people looked at his performance down the stretch. It wasn't great. His performance in the College World Series was not good at all.
He got shelled in the final game, correct?
He certainly did. He absolutely got rocked. And I think that a lot of teams got cold feet. Now, a lot of guys have done well despite kind of fading down the stretch and succumbing to pressure, and they're worried about the draft and everything like that. It's not necessarily a harbinger of things to come. However, it is something that is concerning that you want to get taken care of, that you maybe have an extra reason to want to make sure you get the medical situation taken care of before you spend that kind of money. So as I'm one who will jump on the Mets management with both feet under almost all circumstances, I kind of have to side with the Mets here.
I can't really blame you for siding with the Mets. I kind of feel the same way. We just saw this in basketball where you're looking at Jared Butler, who's projected to be a first-round pick out of Baylor. We know how good he is, and he ends up falling into the 40s, and Utah takes him. And it's like, why would he slide? He's so good. It's like, oh, yeah, he has this heart issue, and a lot of teams got cold feet. Well, that makes sense, because if they were afraid of it impacting him long-term, or might impact maybe his longevity in the league, they decided to go extra, or go elsewhere, I should say. So I can't blame the Mets for, deciding to go a different direction. The only blame I'd have for the Mets is if you had concerns about his arm, why would you draft him in the first place with a top 10 pick?
Right. Yep.
That's really the only, I'd say, issue I have with the Mets handling the situation is if you didn't like his medical information or whatever, why'd you take him in the first place? But I can't blame them now if they realize there might actually be a serious problem here.
Yep. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So good luck to Kumar Rocker. We'll see what happens. That was quite a fall. But
I'm also confused though. What happens to him now? Because he entered the draft.
Yes.
I'm assuming if his arms actually has an issue, he's probably not going to pitch for Vanderbilt this season.
He's not going to pitch for Vanderbilt. He's already announced that.
Yeah, so he's just going to chill and hope he doesn't fall dramatically, because I'm assuming he's going to.
Well, he probably will play in an independent league somewhere, I would think.
Okay.
This is not unheard of. This happened to Kansas City Royals pitcher Luke Hochevar, who was a first-round pick and didn't sign, I believe, with Texas.
Yeah, I remember him. He went to Texas.
And in the off season between the two drafts, he played independent baseball just to keep his skills sharp. So I'm guessing if Rocker's well, he'll do something like that. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right, Scott. Well, take a look a little bit at the NBA here. It's kind of the silly season, free agent time. This is when everybody decides what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. A couple of guys turning down big money, Scott, out west. Chris Paul turned down the $44.2 million option. Kawhi Leonard of the Clippers turned down $36 million option. Are they going anywhere, Scott, or are they just trying to work a better deal with their current teams?
Kawhi is not going anywhere because he's, of course, injured and most likely going to miss the majority, if not the entire upcoming season. So it makes sense for Kawhi to opt out if he can guarantee financial security, get an extra maybe 2-3 years guaranteed at a $40 million clip or something like that. I think that makes all the sense in the world because of the injury. The Chris Paul one makes no sense to me. It's mostly because of the fact that it's $44.2 million. I know that Chris Paul has claimed he wants to stay in Phoenix, but the fact that he opted out does make it seem like he's maybe considering options elsewhere, because at this stage in Chris Paul's career, $44.2 million for one more year seems like a pretty tremendous deal, in my opinion. You?
Agreed. The speculation is he wants to sign a longer deal.
I'm just saying he's sacrificing a decent amount of money there.
He thinks he can get 3 for $100.
But I'm making the argument, why can't he just take 44.2 for this year?
Because he doesn't think he's going to get 28 a year for the next 2 after that.
Okay.
That's what it means.
Don't get me wrong, I hope they both stay with the current teams. Kawhi's not really as relevant because he's probably going to miss next season, but Chris Paul did a lot for the Suns team. maybe it's just me. Somebody offers me $44.2 million when I have a bit of an injury-prone reputation. I would probably take that in a heartbeat.
And Chris Paul's 36, right?
I believe so, yes.
All right. If he doesn't go there, is there anybody, if he doesn't stay in Phoenix, any leanings where he might land?
If he ends up taking less money to go for the Lakers, then
You know
that's
what?
always an option.
You know what? Yeah, put a pin in that, and we'll take that up on the other side of the break. All right, we're back. We were talking about the declining of the options for Chris Paul, for Kawhi Leonard. So you could potentially see Chris Paul in the Laker yellow, Scott.
The fact that him and LeBron are buddy, that wouldn't surprise me. Plus, if you also forget, Chris Paul was supposed to be a Laker before the league vetoed that trade about a decade ago. So he never had a problem going to the Lakers. He's, of course, familiar with the area, playing for the Clippers for several years. People love him in the area. I wouldn't be surprised, but the question is, of course, with the Lakers cap space, not really now because they got Westbrook, so that kind of throws their whole wrench into the idea. But would it shock me if Chris Paul decided to maybe take a shot with a contender? No. We both think the Westbrook experiment's not going to work, but them getting him kind of kills some of the hopes that Chris Paul had of going there. Do you think Chris Paul's a better fit with LeBron than Russell Westbrook?
Yes.
I think he is too.
I think Westbrook is more like LeBron. I think Chris Paul brings a different skill set to that team as far as somebody that can run the true point.
Now I'll throw a dark horse candidate at you because I mentioned the Lakers, but of course now with Westbrook, that's realistically not going to happen, but I thought that would have been a very good fit maybe a week ago. There are some reports, though, that the Heat are starting to, I don't want to say finalize, but they're starting to separate themselves from the pack when it comes to acquiring the services of Kyle Lowry as a point guard. My question for you, do you think Miami might just be better off signing Chris Paul?
No, that's an idea.
I think it's an idea. I think Pat Riley would love to have him. What do you think?
I do. I worry about the age. I worry about the number of years you're going to have to give Chris Paul at age 36. He's going to sign for 3 years, and
I'm just saying because you might trade some assets for Lowry that you would not have to give up to acquire Chris Paul.
That's true. So, and what are you going to pay Kyle Lowry? Any idea?
Wait, talk about for the Heat?
Yeah.
I mean, he's already getting paid a decent amount of money.
That's
you
what
look
I'm
at
saying.
Lowry's contract. It's not
24, 25. Am I somewhere in that neighborhood?
But what number did you say?
Like 24, 25?
It's higher than that. It's in the
Is
30s.
it really?
It's in the 30s.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you're not saving a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying. And assuming Chris Paul does take less, 3 for 100, let's say, I think it's a decent option if you don't want to part ways with a Tyler Hero type or any of those guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a decent wild card option.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. If you got to spend that money anyway, you're arguably getting a better player. I think Chris Paul is still a little better than Kyle Lowry. Maybe Kyle Lowry's a little less injury prone.
I was going to say the injuries are a little bit tricky because Kyle Lowry missed a decent amount of last year with injuries, or allegedly because Toronto was like half tanking and half not tanking, and it was really weird.
Right. Yeah, it was a very weird deal. So we'll stay tuned. We got a lot of NBA offseason, and I guarantee you, we think we do, and it'll be like football, and all of a sudden it'll just be here. It'll be the end of October, and here we go. So, Scott, there was a couple of surprises over the weekend, non-traditional sports, if you will. One of them came in the Olympics. The other one came in CONCACAF Gold Cup soccer. Trying to figure out which of these was a bigger upset, Scott. There was a gentleman from Italy that won the 100-meter dash, Marcel Jacobs, actually born in El Paso, but is an Italian citizen. He came into the Olympic Games as a 31-1 underdog, Scott. Of course, Trayvon Bromell was the favorite there from the United States. He did not make it out of the semis, by the way. His teammate Fred Curley was the second favorite. He did end up with the silver, but it was quite a performance. But the United States did something they haven't done in a very long time. They actually won the CONCACAF Gold Cup, beating Mexico 1-0 in extra time. Scott, I know my answer. What do you think was the bigger upset there?
It's Jacobs.
Yeah, has
I
to
mean,
be.
you can't compete with a 31-1 shot. I know you can talk about the Team USA and how they usually don't beat Mexico and how they didn't send their full staff for the Gold Cup. Pulisic, you might not have noticed, was there because he wasn't there, for example. But 31-1, I'm sure most people didn't even know who Jacobs was when he won the race.
No, he finished fourth in qualifying. He was the fourth fastest qualifier.
I mean, it's the
That
same
was a
story as
surprise.
that. I forgot if it was the 100-meter in swimming, but the Tunisian swimmer.
Yeah, the guy swimming in lane 8.
Yeah, who like qualified like 6th or something, and he somehow
Last.
won. It's the same exact
Yeah,
idea.
that was fantastic. That was such a great move. They're talking about the guys, as they always do in 3 and 4 and 5, and he's doing this, he's doing that. And all of a sudden, here comes the guy in lane 8 from Tunisia.
I'm really curious how long it took for the broadcasters to either A, remember the person's name, or B, look down at the sheet to confirm who was in lane 8.
Now they did a pretty good job. They had mentioned him a couple other times, but so yeah, they were. But yeah, definitely not treating him with the same reverence that they were some of the other favorites. Now, so here's my question: where does that rank as far as Olympic upsets?
See, the thing is that since gambling has become a lot more common when it comes to Olympic betting, I can't really compare it to other serious long shots because I don't know what the relative odds would have been back then.
Fair enough.
It's got to be up there.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Tunisian swimmers' odds were, but I got to put those neck and neck, don't I?
Yeah, I think it's possible they could be top 10. You've got of course probably the greatest one of all time was Billy Mills in 1964, coming out of nowhere to win the 10,000 meters.
I'm sure a lot of people have no idea who that even is.
Running Brave, they made a movie about it.
No, I know who he is. I'm saying I'm sure a lot of people have not really kept tabs on the 1964 10,000 meters.
Google it, kids. It's a great story. It was actually a movie. If you want the Cliff Notes version, watch the movie. It's a movie called Running Brave.
I was going to say, people think all-time upsets. They think Team USA, Soviet Russia,
That
1980.
that's top 1972. That's top 10. That's when they gave him 3 shots at it. Yeah, that was one.
Does 80.
What?
Does 80.
No,
Lake Placid?
We didn't go in 1980. Oh, you're talking about hockey. I'm talking about
hockey.
I'm talking about the Russians beat us at basketball.
No, I'm talking about hockey.
Yeah, that's up there too.
I'm just saying there's no way Team USA was 31-1 in that game. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
31-1 rivals like Buster Douglas against Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's actually very similar. I think Buster Douglas was 32 or 35-1 in that fight in Tokyo. Weird things happen in Tokyo, buddy. That's all I can say. All right, very good. It's going to be you watch any Olympics?
A little bit. I mean, the hours are kind of crazy. I did watch the end of the golf yesterday, so I did see Xander actually not choke it away for once. He almost
held on, didn't he?
He really made it tough on himself, but he did. Matsuyama had some shots. Shout out to Sabatini, though. Shoot a 61 on the final day to give yourself a shot at the money. Good for you.
I believe they called that the medal, Scott.
I'm a shot to whatever. Money, force of habit. Yeah, medal, money, whatever. Maybe a sponsorship or two from his nation for winning that. But
I'm sure it would pay some dividends.
A 61 on the final day. That's impressive, but Xander made it tough. He missed the fairway on 18, but he made that tremendous approach, hit the par putt to win it all. How about that 7-way playoff for the bronze medal?
Did you watch it? Were you watching it live?
No, I saw the Xander winning, and then they're like, "Oh, we're going to a 7-way playoff for the bronze," and I'm like, "All right, I've had enough."
I was watching it.
How long did that take?
It was good. That was fantastic.
How long did it take though?
Oh, well, I don't know, because as I'm watching it, I'm settling in. I'm doing my work. I'm getting ready to record my videos and stuff. My kid calls. He needs a ride home. They need a designated driver.
It was like 5 a.m., wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was about 2:30. They called.
Okay.
So, he did not have a ride. He went to a pool party with his girlfriend and another buddy.
Nice.
And had no plan to get home. They were gonna take an Uber. And he says, "You know what? I'm going to take a shot. I know my dad stays up late. I'll call him at 2:30 in the morning, see if he'll come and get me."
I feel like the Uber is probably the move there.
Yeah, you should. In retrospect, that should have been the play. But you know what? It's Saturday night. So, yeah, I went and got him and his friends. It was a half an hour drive, then a half an hour back to his place, about a half an hour back to my place. So I get home about 4 o'clock and still got about an hour's worth of work to do, and forgot all about the golf. So, yeah, that was my night.
Shout out to CT Pan, though. 150-1 got the bronze.
Yeah, very nicely done. Very nicely done indeed. You like seeing mainstream sports in the Olympics, or would you rather see the weird sports? You want to see like more hammer throw?
A lot of it depends on which athletes actually show up. Golf was kind of tough because you didn't have Rahm, you didn't have some other guys because of COVID, so it wasn't exactly the same. Plus, it still goes back to the Tiger Woods effect. You know, there's a couple guys who you just want to be there when everything is on the line. And I don't know what you think golfers would prioritize when it comes to a major championship or a gold medal. I'm assuming a decent amount would probably prioritize gold medals.
It's a great question. That's a fantastic question. I would think it depends on the golfer and the country.
Yeah, I'm just saying gold's once every 4. Of course, you have 4 majors every year. So just mathematically, I'm assuming the gold medal is more valuable to the actual golfer.
You think it's 15 times as important?
I think that you can make an argument for just national recognition. If you win, just imagine how much Matsuyama won the Masters and how much that meant for Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if he would have won the Olympics in Japan.
That would have been an all-time moment, especially if they would have allowed crowds.
He would have had 45 separate statues built of him all over in different cities in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge.
That would have been a thunderous applause coming up the final green there. That would have been fantastic. So anything you're still excited about in the Olympics? Anything, because like the swimming's over, a lot of the track and field's over.
Tennis is over as well.
Tennis is over. Golf is over. Volleyball's coming down the home stretch.
I mean, you got to go back to basketball. That's kind of the only thing, right?
You like the U.S.'s chances?
They've looked better. Having said that, they played Czech Republic and Iran, so I'm gonna pump the brakes on the parade. Been paying attention to Slovenia though. Doncic, undefeated in his career, he's been an absolute lunatic in the Olympics because he's Luka Doncic, so that's definitely fair. I don't know if they're going to be good enough to beat Australia or who's going to make it to the final, but it seems like a 3-team race between Team USA, Australia, and Slovenia.
You know, we talked about that before the Olympics. Got Slovenia at about 20-1. Mm-hmm. I told you I liked a little sprinkle there.
Doncic is something else, man. Something else.
I believe you poo-pooed the idea.
I poo-pooed the idea of them winning because I do think if Doncic has one bad game, the team's going to completely fall apart. But it's mostly just asking, do I think they have enough firepower to beat a Team USA or a Team Australia? I don't think they do. But Slovenia did beat Spain. I didn't see that coming. Good for them.
Right. Yep. That's and our Spain was, I believe when the tournament started, Spain was second or third favorite.
Yes, I believe Spain was somewhere within the top 3 or 4 favorites.
There you go. All right. Well, Scott, we've got a baseball card coming up here. It's a typical Monday card. It's kind of short, and of course, there's some games or at least one game where we don't have a number on it as of our recording right now. You know, Scott, we kind of go back and forth. We record these early to give everybody that listens early a chance to get and kind of get ahead of the number. But sometimes it comes back to bite us because we don't have the final odds. We don't have final pitcher determination. So we kind of have to sometimes we kind of have to wing it a little bit, especially when we're going to do every single game. But we do have a decent card, and there's definitely some interesting plays out there. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's start with the Mets and Miami in a NL East showdown there, as Tyler McGill goes for the Mets, not to be confused with his brother Trevor McGill. Tyler McGill goes for the Mets, going up against the Marlins. And Scott, this is one of those games that I spoke of. The Marlins have not made a decision on who their starter will be. My question to you, we know who it's not going to be. It's not going to be Lopez. It's not going to be Rogers. It's not going to be Alcantara. So if it's not going to be one of those 3 guys, do we care who it is?
No, Miami can't hit. We know they can't hit. And without Marte, they're even worse. Mets, on the other hand, they find ways to win. I see that the Mets are currently about minus 150 on the money line. Run line's about plus 120 on DraftKings. Totals at 7. But clearly the pitchers are not accurate because DraftKings has Alcantara listed. he pitched yesterday. So
Right.
clearly somebody didn't do their homework. I'll take the Mets. I don't know how you don't.
Yep. Mets are minus 150. I think you've got to play the Mets there on the money line at least. Certainly consider the run line for a little bit of value. Mets not exactly knocking the cover off the ball.
They do enough.
I think they do. I think they do enough against this Miami staff. And again, Miami, they're a team that either scores a lot or very little, and they score very little most of the time. They've scored 3 or less 8 of their last 11 games. So this isn't a team that does put together much offense. And I think against a pitcher like McGill, who's got a 2.0 ERA, has been very good since he came up in June. I think Miami struggles in this one. And a quick reminder to you guys, of course, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. And right around the corner, you guys have almost made it. We'll be giving out our best play of the day in our Bet the Farm segment. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Scott, we've got a battle in the NL Central, and that's going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Milwaukee Brewers. As you might suspect, Milwaukee, bit of a favorite here. Opened up at minus 195, and people have pounded the Brewers so far, as that number has now gone to roughly minus 215 or 220 in most spots. 9 is your total. Starting to see some 8.5s or juiced 9s creep in. Bryce Wilson goes for Pittsburgh against Eric Lauer for the Milwaukee Brewers. Scott, Milwaukee leading the division. Pittsburgh, a couple of surprising wins over the Phillies over the weekend. Do they have any of that momentum? They keep going in this one?
I think momentum dies when you get outscored by 11 runs in the series finale, don't you think?
They did get blasted on Sunday. So, yeah, that's the now, is that just a question of just having a bad pitcher in there and shaking it off, or is, it's Pittsburgh?
See, you're saying a bad pitcher. Is Bryce Wilson a good pitcher?
No, there is not a universe, I think, where you would consider Bryce Wilson a good pitcher, Scott.
I just remember Bryce Wilson killed me once in the NLCS last year against the Dodgers because he randomly pitched really well that one time. But this season, he has not been good. Lauer,
he came over from Atlanta, by the way, for those of you that didn't know.
Lauer, not bad. I can't say his record's very good, but he has a sub-4 ERA and a 1.29 WHIP. Plus, you want to go through the actual matchups. Milwaukee is 10-3 against Pittsburgh this season, and the matchups have really, really not been close. You go through all of Milwaukee's wins. That's 10 wins. All of them have come via run line.
That's impressive.
They bury this team.
That's saying something right there. And Lauer has been very good, Scott. He was just kind of peddling around there for most of the season. In fact, June 27th, he was sitting with a 5.21 ERA. But since then, he's made 5 appearances, given up just 5 earned runs in 26 and third innings, 1.71 ERA, and about a 1.15 WHIP. So he's been very good lately. And the Brewers have played pretty well with him behind on the mound there. They've won 3 of those 5 starts. So I think we have a pitching mismatch in this one. If you're taking the Brewers, you might as well lay the run line. Don't be afraid of the fact they're at home. They're going to have plenty of opportunities against this bad pitching staff of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
10 wins, all by run line. I'm not going to shy away from the run line.
Okay. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So, Scott, San Francisco Giants, all they do is win, baby. They beat the Dodgers. Then they went down there to Houston. They took 2 of 3 from the Stros. Now they perhaps have a little easier task as they head to the desert to take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Giants are going to start Anthony DeSclafani against Taylor Widener for the D-backs. San Francisco minus 163 favorite, and 9 is your number. DeSclafani didn't pitch great his last time out. Scott, is that going to matter, or was it just a one-off for him?
If you want to take Arizona, I'm rooting for you. That's not going to be me.
He had enough of the Diamondbacks, have you, Scott?
I backed Widener in his last outing because he was against Texas, and I figured you got about plus 140 at the time. Widener wasn't awful, but he did walk a decent amount of guys. Control's been a bit of an issue for him. DeSclafani has not been great lately. He's still the better pitcher, but you want to look at the matchups this season. They've played 10 times. You want to guess how many times the Giants have won?
9.
Correct. They're 9-1. I'm not taking Arizona.
You can't touch this team right now, even at home. Sorry, and I know they snuck up and beat the Dodgers. Congratulations. So there's a good chance if you bet every game on Arizona over the weekend and you're on the money line, you still had a profitable weekend, even though you went 1-2.
But if you took the Dodgers on the run line for the entire weekend, you also were profitable.
That's true as well. So yeah, I just can't. DeSclafani, he has struggled his last 3 starts. Scott, he's given up 10 earned runs over his last 3 starts, covering just 14 and 2/3 innings. That's a 6.14 ERA. That is not ideal, but Taylor Widener is another guy who has really struggled his last 2 starts. He has given up 10 earned runs over those 2 starts, and that covers just 8 1/3 innings.
What's the walk count in those 2 starts?
He walked 5 last time, Scott.
Yep.
3 2/3. That is a bad line right there.
Oh, I had Widener. I know.
That's a horrible line. 3 2/3 innings, 5 runs, 5 earned, 5 hits, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts, 1 home run. Yikes.
Not good.
Not good at all. Got to lay the wood there. Got to lay the wood. All right. I don't know why I said that like that.
I kind of liked it.
Here's our buddy looking to get back in the saddle up there in Toronto, Scott. The Royals were lucky enough to miss Robbie Ray. Didn't matter. Still got swept. But Robbie Ray goes against Eli Morgan for the Cleveland Guardian Indians. And this game opened up as Toronto's a -260 favorite. It's now pretty close to -300, about -290 in most spots. 9.5 is the total juice to the under. Scott, Eli Morgan, not good at all.
Forget about Eli Morgan. Cleveland, not that good.
No, and I don't know what they're doing. I think they're trying to make a run for the wild card.
They're trapped.
Guess.
They're trapped. I mean, there's nothing they can do. When you decide you're going to go in and try to compete, and then your manager steps down about a day later, you kind of have a mixed bag of directions. They're just treading water. This team's probably going to finish around 78 and 82. I think you'd agree that's probably fair.
Yeah, that's within 3 or 4 games. I think they're going to be right around 500.
Yeah, that's how I feel. But
probably a couple games short.
Toronto, of course, huge favorites because they're back in Toronto, and they looked really good in Canada because they killed Kansas City.
Yep.
Kansas City, not very good. Cleveland's better than Kansas City, but at this stage in the season, not by as much as you probably think.
No.
I can't really lay 150 on the run line with Toronto as the home team. Cleveland team total under, and you just hope Ray pitches well.
I don't want to take
Toronto team total over. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to get value here.
I don't want to take Eli Morgan out of the equation. This kid is awful. He has given up. He's made 7 starts. He's given up at least 3 earned in every start.
If you can get a first 5 team total on Toronto, I'd be tempted by that. That's kind of tough to come by, though.
Yes, that would be. You know what? I'm just going to suck it up and lay the wood. I don't care. I'm laying the run line.
Okay.
This is a great pitching matchup.
Do you want to get 2.5 at even money?
What's that?
Do you want to get -2.5 runs at even money? Or is that too much for a home team?
That's tempting, but that's a little bit too tall of a task for the home team there. Although that wouldn't surprise me at all if they get there.
Just saying, it's really, really tough to find value. But actually, one play I'm looking at in BetMGM, which I'm tempted by, do you like Toronto first 5 run line at -115?
Yes. -0.5 or -1.5?
It's -1.5.
Yeah.
It's -115.
Yeah, I'll play that.
I'm just saying it's a lot of juice, but at least for that kind of line. But you got to try to get creative to find value in this one.
Well, and this Cleveland pen is usually really good, and they haven't been good, especially lately. They're not fantastic.
Just saying, if you think Toronto's going to roll in this game, it's probably not going to be some last couple innings comeback. It's probably going to be Ray's really good, Morgan's not. Toronto's up like 5-0 in the 4th.
Yep, you're absolutely right. All right, Scott. Well, we have reached that point in the show where we do it to it, man. We put our heads together. We try to come up with the best play possible for today. That's the one question that we probably get more than anything else. as far as like emails and Twitter and stuff. People want to know, what are you guys on today? What's your best play? So we just did it. We just put it together, and we come up with a little segment that we like to call Bet the Farm. You know how tempted I was to play the donkey right there.
I know you were.
I was that close. So Scott, we did have the Chicago White Sox on Friday night. How'd the Pale Hose end up doing for us?
We had the White Sox on the run line, and they won by 2 runs, so that's a winner.
Beautiful. I'm loving the new music. I'm loving the new music. All right, my friend. Well, you've got the hot hand. Take it away.
So we're going to look at an NL East matchup in baseball on Monday, and we like the Phillies and Nationals over 9. You look at the pitching matchup. Suarez is pitching for Philadelphia. Even though his numbers are good overall, it's also because he doesn't really go that many innings.
He's the closer.
He's kind of a closer. He has yet to pitch more than 3 innings in an appearance this season, and now he's starting. So on a hunch, I don't think he's going more than 3 innings because he's not done that this season.
He's going to throw 50 pitches or 3 innings, Scott. He's going to be backed up most likely by Matt Moore.
Okay, so that's a fun time. Meanwhile, you have Josiah Gray, who got acquired in the Max Scherzer trade, pitching for the Nationals. 6.75 ERA, 1.5 whip. He's yet to pitch more than 4 innings in an appearance this season. He might be good in the future. As of right now, he is not very good, and we know how bad these bullpens are. The Nationals have a 4.63 bullpen ERA. Philly has a 4.54 bullpen ERA. We think you'll see a lot of pitchers who probably don't deserve to be in the majors pitching in the later innings. And if you also want to look at recency bias or just the fact of the recent matchups, 5 of the last 7 meetings have had at least 10 runs. We think we'll see another high-scoring game here. We like the over.
There you go. And that's our Bet the Farm play for today. All right, we've got the week off and running, guys. We appreciate you listening. For those of you on the YouTube, we appreciate you watching. Don't forget to drop us a comment. Want to wish you good luck on all of your plays for myself and for Scott. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow on Whiners and Whiners Radio. Take care, everybody.